This is Cadillac Unscripted on 107.9 CDY. It is sponsored by Independent Bank, and every week we talk with people making a difference in the community. And the Footliters, Katie Huckle, have had a place at our table from the beginning, and here we go again today.
Absolutely. If you want to forget your troubles, and you want to forget your cares, and you want to laugh, and you want to cry, you're going to want to see this production.
Steel Magnolias.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because I know a few cast members, and they are Steel Magnolias. That is the truth. So I want to go around, and we've got our director with us, and we've got some cast members, and I want to go around the table and talk about what your role is, please, and then a little bit, whet our appetite a little bit. So we'll start with Sally.
Well, I play a character named Weezer. And her name is actually Louise, but everybody her whole life has called her Weezer. And so that's where the Weezer. See, I'm looking at our director, and he did not know that. Anyway, Weezer is, well, one of her lines says, "I'm not crazy, I've just been in a very bad mood for 40 years. So that kind of explains Weezer pretty much. She loves the people that she loves, and she doesn't have time for anybody else. And she doesn't have patience for anybody else either.
And pardon me for laughing, but there are some parallels. Wow. No, I mean, I will say.
Well, I guess I'm done for the day.
I'm just saying, very close to this one.
Are you saying she doesn't have to act much?
No, I mean, no. She can be anything in any show at any time. You know, it's so crazy because at one point Sally said to me, you know, pretty soon I'm going to be the janitor, and pretty soon I'm like, okay, you'd be the best janitor there ever was, but I don't think anyone's going to cast you as the janitor unless you're Carol Burnett or something, you know, that kind of thing. So.
Well, I'm having a wonderful time.
Are you?
I'm just having the most wonderful time. She's a terrific character. She gets laughs without even trying. I mean, you just have to say the lines, not even well, and they're funny.
So. We're going to come back around to you after our introductions because I want to talk a little bit about what it's like for you to be directed by somebody else. Let's move to you, my dear.
Hi. My name's Elizabeth Pechota. I play Shelby Eatonton, soon to be Latchery, at the start of the show. And it's really cool playing a character who's at the same stage of life as me, at that point where she's now with this wonderful group of women who I grew up with here in Cadillac. And they get to watch her grow up, and I recently moved back from college, and now they all get to see me grown up. And it's just wonderful to be able to play this really sweet, sassy, and strong character.
You were away from Cadillac for a while. Tell me a little bit about, were you involved in the Footliters before you left?
I have been involved with Footliters for about 10 years. I moved away for the past 5 years to pursue college, but I had my first show in 2013, maybe 2014.
What show was that?
My first time on stage was Wizard of Oz.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Go big or go home.
And how old were you?
13 or 14, wherever it was. And I've always wanted to act, but, you know, it was really cool actually doing it on stage. And, you know, I think this is 30-something shows later. Still love it and have no plans on stopping.
Came home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In so many ways. That's great. Thank you. Okay, we've got the director with us, Dr. Brandon Peltier. Tell us about your role in the show and how is it going?
Yeah. Tell us.
Yeah. Honestly, so the reason that I took on this particular role when I knew that we were doing this is because I've always been a fan of the moment. I've always been a fan of the feels, is what I'll say, where you get the hair standing up on your arms, or you feel that deep sense of either happiness and laughing, or feeling like crying in your chest, or those sorts of moments. And this play was full of them. And knowing the talent that I had in Cadillac, that we have in Cadillac, and knowing that I was going to get 6 fantastic women to be able to help with this. And that's all I consider it is I help. I don't do that much. Literally, I watch the brilliance in front of me and will say, okay, let's punch this up a little bit or say this a little slower or make sure that we notice that this joke is here or give just a little longer pause. But mostly I just get to see 6 fantastic women act 3 times a week to breathe life into these characters and find the beauty in the words and create the feels.
So I'm curious, I mean, did you actually need auditions or did you know who you wanted for each role ahead of time? Or is that an unfair question?
That's, honestly, I wanted chemistry. What I was looking for very much was how the different characters played against different people. Because I think we had 19 people try out for 6 roles. And so, and I tell the actresses that we cast, it was great seeing them individually. It was beautiful seeing 2 or 3 of them at a time, but when the 6th of them came together, it was magic. It was like something went off and it was like, okay. And during even the audition, people that would try out with somebody else or read against somebody else would make each other better. And you would see the character and you would see the deep relationships. And so those were the moments that I was looking for. I was looking for that connection with these women, with each other, because I knew that that could happen. And that for me was the most important part of the show, was how these characters, how these women interact with each other.
Okay.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
So when you found out that the Footlighters were going to be doing Steel Magnolias, did you say, mine?
Actually, so our Malin, Kelly Simons, was supposed to direct this. And it's true.
I did not know that.
Yes.
What a loss it would have been.
And
Yeah.
I said that I would assistant direct her. And when she and I were talking, because again, I felt like I could have I could hopefully help bring out the feels. And when she knew I was interested in directing, she decided that she wanted to be in it. And so I just kind of slid into the director's role. This is the first time I've ever head directed before. So
And you picked an all-female show for the...
I did, yes.
He's doing a great job. He really is. We enjoy him.
Do you go home and look at Amy and say, I'm exhausted by these women? Be honest.
No, actually, I will usually say, "Oh my gosh, we got a few more moments tonight, and we got this little thing," and I will usually tell how amazed I am at the amount of talent that I get to work with. Some shows are absolutely exhausting, and some shows are, you go home and you're like, that has not been my experience with this show. It has just been a joy.
I haven't felt that way either, other than we're just in the midst of line memorization, and we had kind of a dumpster fire rehearsal the other night. And, everybody would admit it.
Yeah.
Yes. But then we followed it up with the next rehearsal, was pretty good. So
Well, it's interesting hearing that come from you, Rich, because I've acted with Sally as my director in lots of stuff, and I can tell you, you do not want to be ill-prepared. Even with her being a close friend, she's just such a professional. And so it was my birthday, and I was out for lunch with Sally, and I said, how's it going? And she said, good. I need to go because we've got a rehearsal tonight, and I need to be off book. And it was all of a sudden I was like the deer in headlights. I thought, Sally's had the role reversed, and she is taking this very seriously. And there were no more chips and salsa to be served. Yes.
no more margaritas.
That too.
That was it.
But tell us about that role change for you.
Well, I've said this before and I will still say it. It's much easier for me to perform than to direct people because I can do it the way I want it. And I can, for the most part, I only have to worry about me. I don't have to worry about 6 or 10 or 50 other people. And it's some people probably wouldn't agree. I think it's much easier to do the performing part than it is to do the directing part. The directing part is, you honestly have to be watching every single person. And I'm one of those people, when I get started watching something and I really like what somebody's doing, I just want to watch them the whole time and not put my eyes on everybody else. And for example, I said it would have been such a shame if Kelly Simon, who is playing, was his mom,
Yes.
Malin, which is a delightful role. She is just amazing in the role. I mean, by the time we get to, she has quite a moving scene towards the end of the show, and all of us are in tears at every rehearsal. Every single while we're holding books in our hands, she's making us all cry.
Wow.
And that's because of the emotion that's already built into the show. Well, this probably isn't my place to mention it, but the show was written by a man. It's basically his family story.
Oh, wow.
His sister was a diabetic who died. She had one child that she'd wanted so desperately. And after she died, his mother was just bereft. And within a very short time, his brother-in-law remarried, and their child never knew, called his stepmother Mom. And he said it crushed me every time she talked about, that child would say Mom to the stepmom. It just killed him. And so he put all these emotions into the script. Yeah, I just am impressed by the way he did it too.
When you talk about those two roles, what would you rather do? You're saying it's easier, and maybe easy isn't the right word. But what would you rather? Would you rather act?
Perform.
Would you rather perform?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, always.
Okay.
That will never change.
Okay.
I don't mind directing. I just would rather perform.
So, Liz, is this one of those situations where, when it's a wrap, you're going to be sad on your last performance, and you've made a bunch of new friends?
Oh, these aren't new friends. These are old friends.
Okay.
I just feel so grateful with the fact that I get to work with these very talented women and Brandon. I'm going to be very sad when the show is over. It's just one of those shows that the script's amazing and this cast just makes it even better.
Tell me about costuming.
Costuming? It's been a lot of fun. It takes place in the 80s, specifically in 1985. And so it's been really fun to look for vintage articles of clothing to wear and get the style of how, these ladies in the South would have dressed in 1985. And we're covering every single age range in adulthood, young adult, all the way up to
Old ladies.
I wasn't going to say it, but you said it for me.
I was going to say again.
Thank you. Thank you,
But
son.
Shelby likes pink, right?
Oh, absolutely. I love pink. I recently found this new obsession with pink, and it was before Shelby, but it's something that I used to not be someone who liked pink, and then I kind of got over it through college, and I was like, wait, this is kind of my color. So, I think it's...
And it looks beautiful on you.
It looks beautiful on you. Sally's wearing pink, right?
Yeah, Sally is in a really pretty pink today, yeah. Brandon, do you think you're going to sell out? I do.
We're very hopeful. Honestly, we have added a couple shows more than what we normally do. We're opening on a Thursday instead of the normal Friday, and we're doing an extra Thursday show before.
But you're actually in a smaller space than usual, too.
That is true. With Cadillac High School still being closed, we're going to be at the Elks. But that's actually an advantage because I like the idea of a smaller crowd.
It's intimate.
Exactly, because I think that you'll get a lot more of the emotion and much more of the feeling that way. I like the idea of it not just being a large cavernous area that you're trying to fill with these 6 characters. And I am very hopeful that, yes, we have had I've had several people tell me that they're going, or they already had tickets or already bought tickets because this is just such a well-known show because it touches a deep part of people that from the movie decades ago. Yes, that it's a story that they would love to see come to life.
Right. And I look at the stars in that show, and you've got stars from Cadillac. We've got Cadillac stars in this show. I think you're going to draw a very large crowd. I'm interested in your perspective. I'm directing this as a physician, and some of the family dynamics that you deal with your patients. Is that coming out in how you're directing?
It's a fantastic question. It's a great, you know what? I wouldn't say as much just because I do know the 6 women in the show, and so I have relationships with them depending on how we have met or what we have done together. Again, Sally and I have done at least half a dozen plays, if not a dozen. Elizabeth I've known since she was a freshman in high school. Kelly, we've done tons of shows. So it's much more of a personal sort of understanding than a job thing, I would guess. But that was also part of the appeal of it when we found that cast, was that knowing what they could do and knowing the talents that they had. But I still fall back to I didn't know who was going to be in the show. It was the chemistry that they showed with each other. That was the best part for me.
Okay.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, now I'll start with you, Sally. 1 to 10, how much is your performance going to be informed by the movie? On a scale of 1 to 10, and why?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say 1.
Okay. And the same question will be coming to you next.
Not that Shirley MacLaine wasn't just fabulous in it, but I'm not Shirley MacLaine.
Mm-hmm.
And she interpreted lines her way, and there are probably some things, because we're doing the same character, that might be similar to what she's doing, but not intentionally. I don't think that my creation of my character is coming from having watched her in the movie.
Okay. Elizabeth?
I would also say 1. I try not to watch a movie if I know I'm going to be auditioning for it, because I really want to experience those feelings myself instead of having to compare myself to Julia Roberts, because it's Julia Roberts.
Right.
But it's when you feel this compulsion to say things a certain way or do things the same way, you kind of miss out on being able to explore it for yourself.
It's more organic that way.
Exactly.
Katie and I have this conversation every time on a much smaller scale before we do this show. We do not discuss with any of our guests ever the things we're going to talk about,
No.
because we want it to sound organic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
The other thing that I have to say, this is an ensemble show, 6 women. Almost all of us are on stage most of the time. Mm-hmm. We were all friends before we went into rehearsals, and as Brandon said, some have known each other longer, but we're all respect each other and are proud to be working with each other. And so the basic element of being friends first is already there before we started rehearsals. So there are things that we play off of each other and laugh at each other that we know are just little things that we can do to each other that will bring a response or something.
In chemistry,
it
is.
And chemistry. And this is delightful to do that. To do a project this big, and also it's so familiar to so many people, and we get to create it and they get to see it in a different way. Because not many people probably sing the stage version.
So what's that like as a director, Brandon, to have that tightness from the start? That's something that either occurs or it doesn't, right?
Absolutely, and I have said to several of the actors as we've gone through this, I had planned this whole big speech on what do we think this blah 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 person is going to be or how they're going to evolve throughout the show, and then I don't use it because they've already done it. The one I thought of was Sally coming in in the first act as, crazy, angry Weezer, who in the second act softens up and is very loving and very close to these people. And to me, it was two different characters. And I didn't have to say a thing to Sally. Sally understood that from the reading of the character, from the way she interacted with the other actors. To me, that was a great part of it. It just they knew who they were when they showed up. I have leaned in. I have said, okay, I want this to be a little funnier or this to be a little, but they had great understandings already when they showed up, who these people were. And again, not because of the movie, but because of what they had read and what they knew what they felt as women.
I'm sorry, I'm talking, but
You're good.
For example, Shayna Biller plays Clarie, and Clarie have been best friends since they were in high school or grade school, I don't know. But Weezer was the maid of honor in Clarie's wedding. I mean, that's the relationship they have. And they say terrible things to each other. just terrible things. I can't imagine.
I look at Sally going, is that right?
We say, the characters say terrible things to each other, and we get a kick out of it doing it.
It's
That's
a
half the
banter.
fun. It's fun.
And let's go to you on this one. I think men will leave understanding women really need a clan when they go through a difficult time, and the show speaks to that. Can you?
I think the whole message of the show is that even when men aren't there will always be women who are there for each other, who stand up for each other, who take care of each other, no matter what's going on, in good times and bad. The men in these shows, they're not, bad men, but they all end up failing these women in one way or another. But at the end of the day, we can always go to Truvy's Beauty Parlor and we can just hang out with our friends or these women who I have seen with my mother in the show. Like, they've watched me grow up. I've known these women for my life.
Well, you're neighbors too.
We're neighbors.
Clarie and
I feel like I
Weezer
would
on
have
either
walked
side of you.
Rhett,
Yeah.
and I think that it's those types of relationships that are so special about this show and about the relationships between women, is that everyone has that one friend that they know that they can call and that they're always going to pick up.
That's true. Sally and I have a dear friend who ran a multi-million-dollar business and sold in the last few years, and she said to us recently, when am I going to find my posse? And we were like, we're here. She just lives, she lives a minute away from us, what I mean? But she was so busy for so many years, this woman, running quite an operation, that there wasn't really time to build those relationships. And I think this play showed that she will be there. Show somebody like her, there's always time. You're not out of time. To have those types of friendships and relationships. And I smile looking over at Brandon, because Brandon is married to a woman who is a twin. So he has this built-in powerhouse, I got you relationship even before he met Amy. There was, like you say, the person that you can call no matter what, with Amy and her twin sister. So what would you say about women and their friendships and their bond? You know a lot about it.
One of my favorite things when I Katie Maynard, who plays Truvy,
The Dolly Parton role.
Yes. Sent, I think it was her who sent a message to us with kind of the history of this. And the playwright said that the big thing that inspired him with this was he would go, after the funeral, he went into the kitchen and the women were there and they were cooking and they were laughing and they were, interacting. The men outside, quiet, not interacting, not whatever, but that closeness and that togetherness in times of crisis, in times of happiness, was just, it was something that really and again, I'm a man, I don't know, but it really spoke to me that level of closeness and that level of camaraderie just sounded beautiful, and certainly it made me think of times in my childhood when I saw things like that and saw that power and saw that togetherness that made everybody better.
Right.
And when I auditioned for Weezer, but I also auditioned for the character of Clarie.
Mm-hmm.
And I had assumed that I might be better for Clarie. Clarie is about 12 months after having lost her husband.
Oh.
Her husband was mayor of the town.
Oh boy.
Her husband was a huge football fan, and so they were always going to games all over anywhere. And I identified a lot with Clarie and what she was going through and what these women meant to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, of course, now I'm much happier as Weezer, but I didn't have to play out my feelings in front of everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's interesting that I was drawn to the character because her experiences were like mine.
Absolutely.
And
But if you had been in there for the first 10 words that Sally said as Weezer during the auditions, you'd go, no, you Weezer.
the first 3 words, this is it.
Yep, it was like, oh, there's the carriage, there's and the way that she and Shayna play off of each other with her being Clarie is just, it is one of the highlights of the show. Seeing Liz playing off of Kelly, mother to daughter Malin and Shelby, absolutely beautiful moments. Absolutely, that was the other thing I saw in the tryouts, was just the connection between the two of them and how they made each other act better. And seeing Truvy, played by Katie Maynard, and Annelle, whom we haven't mentioned, I'm sorry, by Jenny Kurt, and how you have the mother bird and you have the lost little orphan coming in and finding her way and becoming part of this group is just beautiful. And these connections, this chemistry is what attracted me to all of this.
Mm-hmm. I'm watching the energy, Brandon, and the smile on your face, and you are in your element. I see you directing. I see directing in the future.
Small shows, maybe.
Okay.
Not big musicals.
So question, with Amy being the incredible writer that she is, will you play this off of her? Will she come to dress rehearsal? What is Amy Peltier? How does she come into this?
Oh, we've had lots of discussions.
Okay.
As far as, and again, having her perspective is fantastic. You know, how do you think this should be read, or how do you think this should be connected? Or she was actually, she helped us as a casting director when this started, so that I could get a more female perspective, because again, there are things that I don't understand or can't understand, and so
well, he's willing to admit it, Rich.
Absolutely.
I mean, so man, come on, that's
Right.
awesome.
Yeah, we're all pretty aware, right? Yeah.
So what does that look like? You go home and say, "Let me run this by you." Where is this? Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm fascinated by the fact that you're doing this. I want more here. I want this funnier, and I think that, like you said, if you haven't seen the movie, don't see it now. Go see the show. But it's important for people, the ticket buyers, to know you're gonna laugh, you're gonna cry. It's all gonna happen. I promise you that's gonna happen.
Well, and the other thing is that, unlike the movie, it all takes place in the beauty parlor.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yeah, it's not scenes all everywhere. All in the beauty parlor, which helps with that intimacy.
Yeah.
I'm just howling because I was recently in the beauty parlor, and we don't call it the salon, and I opened up cauliflower that had been in my fridge for 10 days. And pretty soon the person over at the wash basin's like, "What's that terrible smell in here?" And then I hear another person say, did we get a new dye? And all of a sudden I look down and I'm like, it's my cauliflower that I'm eating because I've got my hair. And so anyway, my point, Rich, is, and Brandon, is that when you guys go get your haircut, it's like buzz, buzz, buzz. When we go, it's, help me.
It's an event.
It's true. Unless you were Pat Goggin, and then you went to the same place I went. Because there's all women there, and his favorite kind of human.
Just holy. is shining down on you girls when you perform, and on Brandon too.
So as we're hearing this show, we're less than a week away from opening night. So let's talk about tickets, about when it's going to happen, where it's going to happen, and why folks cannot miss this show.
So the shows are October 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, and November 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. All the shows are at 7 p.m. except for the Sunday show is a matinee, and on the second Saturday we have a matinee at 2 o'clock. If you go to CadillacFootlighters.com, you can get online tickets. Because this is a small venue, tickets are limited. So we want to make sure you get your tickets as soon as you can. We also are partnering with Horizon Books and with Brinks Frames downtown, so you can get tickets there. Tickets would be specifically for that show. We're hoping to have some snacks during intermission and soft drinks. And the October 28th, there will be wine and other things, so that'll be kind of our special night. I would encourage people to go early because we have sold a number of tickets already, and we are very hopeful that the Cadillac public is going to be as excited about this as we are.
Folks, this is one you are not gonna want to miss. A lot of horsepower here.
Yeah,
a lot of horsepower
absolutely.
here in the studio, and just a lot of momentum with an incredible cast, an incredible show. And I got the chills listening to Brandon describe directing these women. Don't miss this show.
Cadillac Unscripted is sponsored by Independent Bank. Sally, thank you.
You're welcome.
Liz,
Glad to be here.
thank you.
Thank you.
Brandon, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And of course, the Footlighters always have a place on our show.
Absolutely.
Join us next week for more local chat here on Cadillac Unscripted on 107.9 CDY. As always, sponsored by Independent Bank.